Fugu is one of the two newest characters coming out in just 4 days of me uploading this video on July 10th. And I think that she is super crazy. Actually, I think both characters are super crazy, but this video is about Fugu, who is the next new kind of support character. And I think that one, she looks absolutely gorgeous. And two, I think that her kit looks broken as hell. And I want to talk about why, because I think that she is going to be like almost a must pull character for PvP for a lot of players. And I'm going to break down why and how her kit works and what I think is going to be the build. Now, at the end of the day, there are a couple of things I need to mention. One, her kit is still subject to change. We haven't had the best track record with the kits being accurate with the numbers and everything up until the release. When we get to see it in the Animus archive. We'll go over that when it comes into the game, so make sure to stay tuned to my stream, because I believe on July 9th, I will stream probably right before the reset happens, or July 10th, right before the reset happens, because that's usually when they add them into the game, and then we get to look at their kit, and then we get to pull them. So I will go over it then if there's any changes. So let's break her down so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from here. So first, her stats. This is always subject to change still, but her stats are pretty good, right? She has, just comparing as a benchmark to someone like Linglo, because I think they're same role of a character, as in like a sustained type character, or at least that's how they design them to be, because they put her on Fortismo. She has, 14k HP compared to a max dupe Linglo. That's only 300 less base HP. Defense 751. That is very, very, very high. That is about, in comparison to Linglo, 200 more. Some things to keep a note. One, of course, we don't know what her imprints are, so maybe that is affecting them here. Two, she also has 555. I'm comparing this to a Linglo, that's 155. So she is probably not as tanky as this. She's probably going to be a little bit less tanky compared to someone like Linglo. Linglo is pretty squishy, but I think that with how you're going to be building her, it won't matter. And she is a little bit slower, but I actually know that this does not matter at all for how her kit is designed. So let's break it down and understand why these stats are actually a really good distribution and the speed is irrelevant. Well, that's because she has this really broken new type of ability. So this is a new unique passive type thing, this is one of those skills that have a passive built into the S1 on top of its own effect. Is pretty much each time an enemy ends their turn, if Fugu doesn't have Moonlit Veil, and we'll talk about what that is, she'll increase her turn meter by 8%, and if she already has it, she'll reduce her turn meter by 8%, which pretty much means she's not going to be moving up the turn meter at all until she's getting hit and stuff. This may sound bad, but trust me, you don't care, because you just need to get her S3 up, and pretty much you win the game for the most part, it feels like. And to be honest, even without it, she just does stuff, so it doesn't matter. Once she moves, she does her thing once, and then she's done enough, and then you don't care that she moves. She just needs to exist. And geez, she is going to exist. So what is Moonlit Veil? Moonlit Veil is this special passive, which is that all allies will always trigger this at the end of their turn and after being attacked, but they can only trigger it once per turn. So they have to take a turn again before they can refresh and get it again, which is increasing their turn meter by 12%. So again, if they take a turn, they'll activate it, and then they also get a chance when they get hit to get activated. So they can technically have 2 activations, which is kind of a weird wording, but it's just how it's designed. They'll heal 8% of their max HP. So really good on tanky characters. We're talking about Tiamat, pretty much any character that can be built on a lot of HP. This is going to take a lot of value from it. And also note that that 8% HP is really good with Tiamat. She has this thing where if she has Moonlit Veil, she won't get the turn meter increase, but that doesn't matter. So this is really powerful because they get hit. Well, cool. Now you heal back 8% of that damage they took, which is really good. And you're also pushing yourself up, so then you can cut and take a turn. Pair this with something like Veronica. You pretty much don't need any speed on Veronica. She just needs to survive. If she takes a hit with this character on the board, I mean, you're just denying your opponent anything. They just can't play the game. Also, to pair this off, her S1 also has a really broken effect where when it hits, she does increase 2 random allies' turn meter by 10%. So you can quickly see how maybe this is coming together. Press 3 here. So this is kind of the one where, remember, if she doesn't have Moonlit Veil, and remember Moonlit Veil consumes itself right away when she takes a turn or whenever she is also getting her getting hit, so she'll be able to push, well, she won't push herself, but she will still consume it right away, and then she'll still get that 8% turn meter, which is really good. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that she has an insanely high HP, and that's important because she applies a 2-turn shield to all allies equal to 24%, and yes, I think that you will max this out, and we'll talk about it in a second. 24% max HP to all allies, and she'll also apply 2 turns of Moonlit Veil to herself, which is really nice, and she will also apply a 2-turn speed buff to other allies, so not herself but everyone else. So really good. Again, you just need her to exist because you don't really want her to take turns, because you want everyone else to take turns and keep getting the effect. Yeah, this is a crazy ability, and it kind of makes up for the fact that she's not going to take more than 1 turn, but that doesn't matter with how she works, right? Her entire kit revolves around just letting her exist, and that's going to make the rest of your team much harder to kill, which is really important for players that are playing bruiser type compositions, mostly once you get your bloodbaths and stuff online. So she will be very, very good because she is a healer that doesn't need to take her turn. And keep in mind, this does not care if you are CC'd. So this is kind of like an upgraded Sonya in a way. It doesn't cleanse. That is the only difference between this, but it is crazy. And because of the S1, you can run her on Bramble, which is just wild, right? You're giving 2 random allies turn meter. So this is crazy. She does have S2, but to be honest, if you're casting this, the game's probably over because you've already survived and you're probably scaling your bruisers and winning that way. But pretty much it's going to slap them 3 times. Each time has what's most likely going to be a 55% chance because you can see it scales up by 15% each time. So it's probably going to be 55 and upwards of 100%, but you're probably never going to get this there in the first place because this slot is usually located for defense percent, which, you know, sure, it's nice for her, but you probably don't need it for the most part, mostly because we're going to be having everything else. But it also has a chance to trigger Moonlit Veil 1 time for the ally with the lowest HP. So, I mean, it could be a pretty nice boost, right? This could be, what is this, like 12%? If you have everything maxed out in a way, this could be a 36%, 36% turn meter increase, as well as like 24% healing, which is, you know, I mean, that's good. That's definitely good. But is this worth your lattices? No, this is one of those cases where it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, but are you ever going to be in a situation where you have actual spare lattices to throw away? No, you're going to start a new project, right? And this is not what you're going to do. So now what actually matters on maxing on her, in my opinion, you definitely want the S1, you definitely want the S3, because both of these tie into Moonlit Veil. The S1 here, this gives that return brocade. That is going to be that turn meter increase and decrease by 8%, which means that she can take her turn 1, which is the only turn that matters. And that's kind of the key thing, right? And she's also going to make sure she's not taking a turn afterwards. So you don't have to worry about any other things like triggering gigabytes and all of that, which are really good in bruiser matchups. So they even thought about that, which is really crazy. Like that's very heads up. But also she has like this really big healing. This is the 8%, which is the magic number for something like Tiamat. So this is really important, mostly if you're playing Tiamat, which most people that are going to want her are probably going to start building up Tiamat. Mostly if you're a turn 2 player, Tiamat's a pretty high priority character for you. And also it's going to get that shield amount. And also, I should point out that, like, yes, the S1's nodes probably aren't that important to you because their speed. It's still nice because it's going to help her with that first turn. And that actually still matters to her, that first turn. And she can kind of help herself get there. So it doesn't matter, mostly because you're going to build her on things that are going to help you survive to it anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. This also means that once you do get there, you're going to get this big shield and she's going to have that HP, which scales off everything else. So this is really crazy. So how are we actually going to build her? Well, there is a couple of options, but obviously I think the best one, well, there's 2 ones that have really good options here. I think the best one is probably going to be Amber. And the reason why is because this ice state doesn't stop passive effects. It just stops turn meter increase. And you don't really care about that. Remember, you don't care about that at all. So what this means is she can keep triggering her Moonlit, but she's going to eventually take a turn. And then when she takes a turn, well, she has a bunch of things that she could be doing, right? If she hasn't casted her S3 yet, well, now you get a big swing with casting that S3. If she did cast her S3, well, now you get that S2, right? And then you feel really good about it. It has Bloodbath and it has Bramble. And Bramble's crazy on her because you have that increased turn meter. Obviously, Bloodbath's Bloodbath, so there's that. Now, between Colossal Guard and Swift Smite, I think it doesn't matter. You should just run whatever. Now, is there a better of the 2? Yeah, Swift Smite is probably better because, again, you do care about still getting to play the first turn. After the first turn, you don't care, right? If she takes a turn, who cares, right? It just happens. She gets to slap you with her S2 or even an S1. You're not going to complain about it, but you don't care either. So Swift Smite is there, but Colossal Guard is also fine. It also means that it's going to scale with the Amber, making her even harder to kill. And if you can't kill her, even after proccing Amber, it doesn't matter. She's still applying everything else that she's doing onto the other characters. So just giving her pretty much 2 lives and making her really toxic, it sounds really broken. And I think it is. So that is why I think Amber's going to be the best for her. I also think that Lighthouse is also really good because it has the same thing. It has Bramble, it has Bloodbath, Colossal, Swift Smite. Same exact situation. This one's a little bit better for like anti-cleave now, but Lighthouse is going to be like, if you have a spare Lighthouse with this, you can build this. You don't have to be tunneling in on the Amber. You should be farming what's most efficient for your account to get the most variety of options, because that's going to give you the largest spike for your account long term rather than tunneling for one specific thing. You got to keep your options open when you're trying to maximize your efficiency on your account for progression. So if it has to be Lighthouse, it can be. Another option, which I think this is where you're starting to enter the territory of like, okay, you're coping. It's just because you have this. It's Bloodbath, Cure, Evil Guard. This will scale with that HP percent, which is nice, but I don't think that this is the best option. She does still want to take turns, right? So the Gigabyte pushing her forward for that first turn. This is kind of like the middle ground. This is pretty much your budget Lighthouse because you're going to get the push-up. The push-up is more, but it is also like, this is not the best. You'd much rather have a Lighthouse, which can also protect you and heal you. You would much rather do that. You don't care about anything besides the first turn. So after the first Gigabyte, it doesn't really matter. There's also Fortissimo, which has Evil Guard, but again, no Bloodbath. So you'd be looking at the same kind of setup of Cure, Bloodbath, Evil Guard. In my opinion, it's not really there. You do trigger all these passives here, which are nice. In my opinion, probably going to want to prioritize the Amber first, then the Lighthouse, then the Gigabyte. And then finally, if you're desperate and you just happened while you're trying to go for the Lighthouses, you got a Fortissimo. You can build it. There's definitely going to be other characters that can take advantage of that Evil Guard, Bloodbath, Cure, even Swift Rush or Wellspring, and be able to build that up. You know, it's not going to be wasted. It's a good temporary one while you're trying to find the perfect one. So in the end, what's my opinion on Fugu? I think she's amazing. I think she is going to be a top tier PvPer. I don't think she's good in PvE, but she is really, really good in PvP, mostly for turn 2. And I think she may be the reason why you should instead commit to changing to turn 2. I mean, she definitely opens up that territory. We're going to have to see what her final numbers are when they come in. But right now, my first impression on her is that she is almost a must-pull character if you are going to be building or plan to eventually build characters like Tiamat, Holden, pretty much any of the turn 2 compositions. If you are not fast, you are going to probably have to pivot to that. So you should pick her up just because she's a good option. And to be honest, even like standard players, when you play against like slower players and you need to play the slower game, that is where she's going to shine. So that's it. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about her, your first impressions. Are you going to pull her? Like, subscribe, and see you all next time. Bye.